This is a JabberWocky. Cool name. I expected to open a box and some weird Oriental guy is going to be dancing real crazy. Anyway, this is what it looks like when you open the box. We get the kit with all the gear, like the full package. We wanted everything that they recommend, 100%. So we got all the servos, speed control, motor, the whole whatnot. So let's just, people like to see all the pieces. So I'm gonna go ahead and debox the thing so you can get a look at the millions of pieces you're getting here. And I don't know if that's gonna come through on video super well. Oh, the landing gear is the only thing taped down. But there's like miscellaneous loose pieces in the box. Washers, wood squares, and something that looks like it's gonna be useful. These things. Octagon pieces with a hole in the center. So I'm gonna gather up my bits and pieces before I move on. Of course, in the top of the box itself is a few pieces of carbon fiber. Looks like 2 really long skinny ones and 1 shorter fat one. I'm gonna leave those stuck there. Just kind of get the box out of the way for the moment and spread the pieces out so you guys can see it. But let me show you an illustration of this before I go. All right. So, important little mention. I was about to put the box away, but then I noticed some microscopic screws sliding around in there as I was moving it. So you might want to pay attention to those if you're opening this box yourself. That's a look at your pieces, and it just got to a point where I was not getting I recently downgraded my table size to one that's a square instead of rectangle, because I figured the rectangle would give me more room to walk around in my room, which I don't know, like at this point maybe I needed the square table, but all the pieces are piled up on top of each other. If you are a person, and then there's stuff like I mentioned, little tiny washers, microscopic screws that just were rolling around randomly in the box. Look at the size of that thing. So yeah, if you're faint of heart about a lot of parts, you know, you look at the jets that come out with 6 pieces and you're saying, oh, it should have been 4. This might not be for you. I mean, look at this little bag by itself. It's like just, oh, and there's probably the culprit of the leaking bag. We'll put this on the table here and fetch that piece. As usual, you gotta flex your foam, but on these, I don't really find that it really needs it. These are so flexible and soft out the back. So, I don't know. Enough talking about this stuff. I guess I'll dig into starting to put it together. Alright, so you gotta print your own directions, like whatever on that. Kind of goes in. First thing they start with is the wheel. So kind of already assembled one, no big deal. You take the screw that goes into the back of the, and it's going to recess in the hole there. You see that? They cover it in the directions right here, showing you A and B, and then B is not the right one because B will just sit flat on top, whereas A recesses. So then you got it. There's some notches in the wheel that you, the tire that you place the wheel into. Line up the same notches on the other side and feed it through. Once it's due, you can put the nut on by squeezing it slightly. Alright, so then They show that. They showed the wheel put together. So that's it. That's it for page 1. So page 2, just telling you how much to tighten it looks like. So if you tighten it like this, which I don't know, this seems the correct way to tighten it. It's wrong, I guess, by it not being tightened enough. Whereas this is a lot more. I guess that's what they're pointing at, because this still has to feed through the landing gear and such. So of course my tightening job will not do. We're gonna have to go much further than that. So let's get into that. All right, I got my mini tool, multi-tool, and I'm gonna go ahead and tighten this down to appropriate level as shown in the manual. They don't have a measurement of sorts, so I'm just gonna kind of wing it from there till it feels like it's about right. I don't see any instructions for any glue. I guess the notches should hold it. It reached a level of very tightness, so I think that's it. It looks like it's less than illustrated in the picture, but maybe enough. Next step in the directions going to joining the 2 wings. So I've already worked all the flaps and ailerons. I'm just going to use, it calls for CA, medium CA with activator. I think I'm going to go ahead and do this with E6000, because, you know, the person who this is for, he prefers E6000 on everything. And I kind of don't like these kind of foams with CA a lot, because it ends up kind of shattering, whereas this E6000 will be more flexible with the movements. And the spars are going to go in here, so it's going to be strong enough to just hold it together until you put the spars in to make it really strong. So that's going to be the next step. I don't need to really cover that. I'm just going to put glue on both sides, tack it, pull it apart, tack it back, let it sit overnight. Plenty of noise now with kid and laundry being done in the background. But I got these 2 halves joined. They're pretty flexible. The next step is to put these plastic inserts in. So I'm going to go ahead and fish those 2 out. That's the 2 plastic inserts. I don't see where it says to put glue in them, so I'm going to just go ahead and get those put in. Yep, I don't see glue anywhere. So the next step kind of shows you a side view of the wing and to which way you want this. You kind of see it's kind of got a ramp kind of shape to it. So you put the rampy thingy in that direction. And if you put it in wrong, you'll know, because it sits up. Let me do it and do it, just because it doesn't take but a second. See, it's going to sit up. So obviously that's going to trigger your brain to know that it's not correct, and you could just easily flip it around. No big deal. The other side's got a little lifted part. Obviously you can't put this in backwards. Get those dropped in. That's it. The next step is this spar. This white plastic piece is to seat it. So this rib is laid out, starting out in this plastic piece that you put it into the wings where they joined. You're gonna center it. It kind of gives you, it's pretty stiff, so it's gonna give you the layout of where it goes. But I'm still gonna, like, if you were even to push it off a little bit, it springs back to where it's supposed to be. I'm gonna do a little bit of a measurement there though, but the whole purpose is that it needs to be there close by, so it can kind of stiffen the wing from both sides. So I'm gonna get my I don't have a fancy tool for this, so this blade needs to be 2 millimeters deep, which will, this is like 1.5 millimeters. This yeah, so see, this blade will still pass this a little bit. I might even extend the blade slightly more than that. So these kind of blades have a lock on it, so you can unlock it, move it, and lock it, right? So what I'm gonna do is, that's still a little bit pesky when you're trying to do something. Go a little bit further, because I'm not exactly sure about the usability of the blade when it's that short with this plastic tip. Anywho, I'm gonna play with this quite a bit until I get it right. I'm gonna tape this though, because when you're using it, this has a tendency to get moved. I'm gonna tape this, then I'm gonna just, you know, take this spar, or maybe even my my ruler, do a segment, cut the hole, put it in there. So I'm at the point where I got one wing, the bottom part of the wing. I started at the top, of course, like I did for gluing, which was kind of a mistake because I ended up having to flip it over, and then some glue seeped out of the other side because I started with the top first and then flipped it over to check it. And then when I checked back, some CA had already crystallized, so I got a slight blemish on top because of it. So now I'm on bottom first, and I'm gonna completely let this dry before I even try to do the top portion of the wing, so this will be, you know, finished. I don't have to worry about that. So now I'm just taking a small screwdriver, as you can obviously see. Get this out of my way because the camera's right over the work surface, and I'm pushing it in just to get it in that little channel that I cut. Make sure it's in, and the E6000 can finish the job the rest of the way. So I've got one little bit left. You can kind of see where it's in the channel there, and it's kind of a decent amount of E6000 on the top of the channel. That way I knew I would have a real good bond for it. Alright, so I'm to the end. It's fairly consistent as far as the depth of the rod. It's kind of bowing a little bit. I guess that'll satisfy itself once I get to the other side. But I'm just make sure it's all the way down. I might actually come back with a little bit areas like this that's not as deep. I found that if you take your knife, and there's a little dip on my knife, I don't know if yours will have it, but that puts you where you can lay it right on top of the rod and kind of cut right along with the rod and get you a little bit extra depth if you're shallow in areas. Now there you go. Now I'm all the way down where I want to be, and I might just put a little bit foam tack on top of that, just to, not foam tack, but E6000, just to make sure that I'm completely stuck. And I'll do that all the way across, and then I'll flip to the other side. So I'll let the wing dry. I'm gonna go on to the next step. Shows the wing, shows 4 servos, so it's the flaps and the ailerons. It shows these pieces right in there, then they show them down here to cut them out, so I got them all cut. Then it shows your servos, so center your servos. Use one of the servo arms that comes with your servo, and then you can kind of see there's a hole in it where you could stick it through. See that? It's the servo horn, so you stick it through the bottom, then you drill a hole and put a screw in it. So I don't see any screws that kind of correspond to this size. These little gold pegs can't be it, but they're more likely to be the right size. These really big screws can't be it, so I would imagine I'm gonna have to put a screw, because they're showing a screw, but it's a pretty big screw. Maybe this is it. Yep. So I guess I'll try that. So yeah, that big screw is gonna go through there to keep these pieces from separating, and then the servo horn is gonna attach to the servo itself. Let me get started on that. So I put together the first 3, and then I got to the last one. I said, you know what, let me go ahead and kind of illustrate this, because the instructions don't exactly kind of make it easy to understand. So you got your servo horn. You're used to what this looks like. You got these little pieces of plastic. Obviously there's a big circle cut out in there. You just take your servo horn, you put it in that piece of plastic, and you line it up where it's gonna become, it's just extending the arm that you already have, right? This little short one wouldn't be long enough for anything, for any acrobatic type stuff, right? So you're gonna extend that out. So I'm gonna get this centered as best I can on this white piece of plastic, this way and this way. I'm gonna put it down on my my work center, make sure it's centered, and then I'm gonna go ahead and put my drill bit in there and start on spinning. Once I get a decent dimple that I'm satisfied with, I'll pick it up and finish the rest of the way. Alrighty, I'm almost through, and I'm through. Once through, you can ream it a little bit if you want. I don't. I just kind of pull it away, get this extra debris out of the middle. You see that? Because that will definitely hinder your seating of the next step. So I'm gonna wipe that debris off. Got all that. Get off the bottom too. All right. So now I'm gonna line it back up, and so I finished putting the bigger screws in, and like the diameter of these screws are almost equal to the size of the they're actually, the head of the screw is actually larger than the actual arm that comes with the servos. Now these are not just some servos I pulled out, these are the ones that we bought from them, you know, they're servos. So I cut it off. I tried to cut it off with a cutting wheel to make it nice and neat, but then that was heating things up. That caused an issue. I don't know why would these screws need to be this big for this, but I guess this is their method, so this is for somebody else. I'm gonna follow the directions exactly. Don't agree with it, think it's pretty stupid, but whatever. Next step leads into getting a servo tester, center everything, and then do 2 left and 2 right. So then you're going to take 2 this way, and then 2 the other way with the servo lead facing up. That's it. Alright, so now that I got the servos set up for use, these are going to be my aileron servos. So I kind of get it set where it's got to go. They got it all cut out for servo. I don't know why they didn't go as far as saying that all the servos arms would be kind of the same also. So they didn't cut the servo arms out. So now you gotta, I mean, if you push it down in here a little bit, it's gonna make a perfect indentation. You can go ahead and get those trimmed out, and then I'll get that done across the board. Then once I get those in the hole, then I'll worry about the servo wire channel, because I'm gonna just probably have it come up a little bit, go parallel with the other line for the spar. I find that you might want to be tempted to use an X-Acto knife, because that's just our tool of choice for everything. But this carpet knife kind of looks like a better fit, and then it gives you a guideline so you can actually lock the knife into place where it is and set your depth so that it doesn't go any deeper. So now I can cut that line to the depth I need for this servo. So I'm to the point where I got all 4 servos in, and I'm going to do my channel for the lines. So I'm going to see that this wire comes out flat like this. I'm going to probably want to do the turn like that, and come around and then go straight even with the actual spar. So we'll go ahead and get that started, and then I'll come back and show you. So yeah, do whatever you want when it comes to like stuff and tools and stuff, but I find that this knife with this locking mechanism works good for this. So I'm gonna go ahead and keep it going. I'm gonna go ahead and notch this out and use my trusty ruler to keep a straight edge and go straight on down and get them all to the middle. Just so that I'm as thorough as I can be without being overly long, I just put a bead of the E6000. The first piece of wire I just plugged in because, like, you know, this is the flap. So the aileron came down, and I did the same procedure for the aileron, but then when you double it up, I stuffed the first wire down in the hole because, you know, obviously I didn't need to glue both of them in. So then I just stuffed that one down, and now I'm just gonna feed this one on top, and all the way kind of close to the end. I don't know what's going to happen in the middle of the airplane. Might be in like a profile type plane. So just stuff that down in the channel, and then I'm going to just take my towel and wipe off the excess glue that's sticking out the top, and it's almost hidden. Next step goes into these things. So I already got them cut and separated, one left, one right. They show you which way they go in the picture. So the tab, the tab goes to the inner portion of the wing, as you can see in the picture. Let's get that done. So this step shows you cut these left plus right, check mark, whatever that means. So now this shows the end of the wing, or maybe this is the beginning of the wing, because both of the servos are facing out. So yeah, this is the center of the bird, and shows, so this would be the right side perhaps. It says right plus left. I don't know how could that be right plus left? This is only one wing, but it shows a tab to the right and then a tab to the right, unless it goes like on one side of the bird, left plus right. It says left plus right. So then the very next step is medium CA, and then it looks like we're looking at, because of this little uplift, that's the edge of the wing. So upside down on the left side, from upside down basically, and it shows this tab facing left, which is the opposite of what we just did. So it's quite confusing. Now they show this second one circled also, and it's facing left. So I don't know, like let me show you again. This is the right wing. Both are facing outboard to the edge of the wing, but they don't show you the edge of the wing, but they show you that RC factory sticker, or I mean badging, right? So this is actually what we're looking at for real. This is it. And oh, wrong side of the page. Wrong page altogether. So yeah, this is what we're looking at. It's got the RC factory. Got the two servos facing to the right. So now we got these two should be right here facing outboard. Then on the next page, on the left side, the wing that we're not working on, they face outboard. Okay, so both face outboard. I was just confused, and I tend to confuse myself sometimes with these directions because I don't know why they figured it that way or worded it that way, which there's no words. That's weird. Next step, 8 of these, 8 of those, 2 of these. It says to cut this in half and then in half, so cut the head off just so you can get a threaded piece, and then cut those 2 pieces in half, so I'm gonna get that cut. Alright, I got the heads cut off the screws. I got these pieces cut in half. Get these ends screwed on. Seems like that's going fairly easy. Yep. Trying to match the amount of turns that I do on each side so I have an even size screw. And I'll get the rest of these done. Gonna jump around a little bit here. Reason being, these side force generators are next, and I didn't ever put the top spar on because I was working on the bottom first, which now I figure that is a silly mistake because now these clevises and stuff are going to be in my way. But these will fold up because I did not go as far as putting the linkages on, so at least I can let those fold up and let the servo arms fold back. It's not much pressure needed to be applied. I just got to kind of lay it on that side so I can cut the channel. I already cut half the channel, so I cut the other half of the channel and work the spar in. So I'm gonna let that half dry, and I'm gonna move on to this. So I'm not gonna put these side force generators on. I'm not gonna put these on. I'm gonna come back to that. Go on to the next page. Get this is more wing stuff. I'm gonna leave all that alone for now. I'm gonna skip all the way down to this tail. So it shows the tail spar. Looks like one of those screws, one of those little things that go on your servo horn, to the ends, 2 of the little pins, 1 extension. I did not get an extension in my kit, so I assume that's something you got to add on your own. And then all of these little plastic things. Let me get that round up. Alright, this is everything put together, all the pieces, well, except for the styrofoam. Let me grab that, and then I'll commence to this install. First things first is to cut these apart, so just gonna take my X-Acto knife and cut them. I'm just going through the motions, so put the 2 ends on here, directions there. That's the correct formation as per the directions. You can kind of see in the picture. Servo hole, these things where the spark goes through. Now I moved on to the actual elevators. So I got this piece on, CA down. I am using CA for this because these parts are going to be touching each other, so they don't need to be easily removable. Oh, there's a spar in the middle right here. You need to like pull that out and maybe get a little bit of CA in the gap and push it back in place. So that's where I'm at. Alright, so it goes from there to the assembly of it. So attach the ends to the pieces of foam, get all the foams together, get the spar, get the clevis, the servo arm, glue one side in, slide the other one on, no glue. Next page. Slide the other side on, still says no glue. It looks like there's a spacer that goes in between here. So, it says to slide this on, but then ultimately I think you're gonna have to slide it off to get that spacer that's needed in. So yeah, I'm gonna figure that out. Took me a few seconds to kind of figure out the configuration because they show in the directions this little white piece, but you don't know what it is because it's facing down. But it's important that it's facing down, so make sure that yours isn't the wrong direction, because otherwise you're gonna have to, if you glue this in place, let's say this has to be just like it is with this thing facing up. This is the bottom side of the tail, so that means this needs things to be up. The green needs to be the side where this thing is. Otherwise, you'd have to cut this to get it on the other side, because once you glue this, of course, there's no taking it out. So make sure you got this piece facing up, because it's definitely confusing by the directions. So now that I got this piece in, I'm going to go ahead and go to, it doesn't say to glue these on here. But of course, this has to be glued, for this thing to control these. You know, you gotta have this glued down. So, oh, it says it right here, medium CA. It's in a later step. So once I get everything lined up, I'll come back to that. All right, I got the tail section put together now. I put some E6000 underneath it. I did it on the other side. I'm gonna do it for this side also. I'm just run a little CA right here. As you can see, set that down, put my activator on, and let that set. I'm gonna do the same thing on the very end, just to keep it from moving. Like the E6000 will do its job, but this will help it, you know, from the top, basically just keep still, so it doesn't mess up the joint. Just something I do. I do that with all my installs, because I hate waiting on something to dry. So even if I don't want to use CA, sometimes I'll keep it still with CA. All right, so that, with this thing fully installed on both sides, keeps you no guesswork. There's a gap in between, so this thing will freely move. I got this facing up, so this will actually be like this when installed, if you want to reference that to yours. So I'll flip it over so you can see. So like the writing on the plane of yours has it. This has RC Factory on the directions, but mine doesn't. And then this little green thing does transfer over. So anyhow, that's it. I didn't say in the directions to glue the servo yet, but it's getting into setting up the linkage on the servo. So it did say to center the servo, so I'm waiting for them to say glue it, but I'm gonna just do it step by step. So you got to cut the screw. It tells you to cut it to 23 millimeters, which on this little picture, it might be a little misleading that it's actually like close to halfway point by the picture. But if you look at these two screw segments, you can see 23 millimeters isn't halfway. So if you cut all of yours at halfway, you'd make a mistake thinking they would always be that way. This one needs to be slightly longer. I think I'm gonna go ahead. There's nothing in the directions about gluing this thing down. I'm gonna go ahead and get this glued in, the servo that is. I got the linkage connected. I got a nice, you know, straight angle there. It seems pretty straight, so I'm gonna go ahead and glue the servo down. Strange little tidbit. They cut out the ears for the servo, but they made you cut them yourself on the wing. That's odd. So I went ahead and got the servo attached. I'm not gonna put CA on it because it's a tight fit already. It wasn't moving at all, so I went ahead and just put the E6000 on it. I got all of that corrected. So now this thing here hadn't been glued to get everything together, so I just kind of lined everything up by hand, because you can't lay it flat on a bench, because you know you got to glue it from this side, and obviously this stuff is going to make it stick up right here. So I just kind of made everything straddled. Then I took the tip of my glue, just set it on both sides of there. Then I hit it with the kicker, and now it's all, you know, pretty solid. I might do a second application of that, just for strength. I got the centered from both sides, from, you know, not the perfect center that I would have got after I looked at it, but it's better than rubbing. So there we are. So I got the wing spar glued on at the top. That's good. So I just want to kind of cover, in case this is not very easy to understand by looking at it, these little pins that you get with the kit that were all over the place loose in the box when I opened it, they're little gold pins. They push in one way only on the little clevises. It would be impossible for me to make it make sense, but there's one hole that's bigger on this side and a smaller hole on this side. Well, of course, you're going from the bigger side to the smaller side. Take your needle nose and clamp it down, and that's it. That's the way they operate, and then they lock in, and it sticks out the back side ever so slightly. Let me see if I can cover that. There we go. So you see it goes in this way, sticks out the side on that way. So same setup on both sides. So I guess we're finished with that piece right now. The last thing they cover is connecting a linkage, clamping it down with your needle nose. Now we're going into the wood, so I got to get all my wood set up now. All right, that's all the pieces of wood. Exactly, they spread them out in the directions. They go right into some C-cut pieces off the one goes on each of these outer pieces. So let me get that cut out. Yeah, I didn't kind of go step by step with the directions, so I'll kind of cover what I did. We start with the directions, see exactly the way they do it. They show you on here that you attach two of these together. So yes, it's not the greatest explanation of gluing it together. They have two pieces that look like this. You glue one on top of the other. Make sure that you have it the right way, because you don't have a lot of time if you're using CA. All right, then you have two of these same pieces. You glue those two together. All right, and then you pull out this piece. All right, once you pull out this piece, the two pieces that you just glued double right up here, they go together in this formation. So it's not exactly covered well, but the bigger side, like see, it's got a short side and a bigger side. The bigger side faces up, and that doesn't matter because this piece is actually reversible. But once you put it on this piece, which is this, it's not going to be reversible anymore. So make sure that the tabs at the bottom are the same size. Does that make sense? If you were to put this piece upside down, it would stick out past the body of everything else, and you'd probably have to take that apart. So I didn't have to, so I don't know exactly the consequences. All right, so then it covers gluing it together. It shows you this piece getting to glue it on. It still doesn't show you a great picture of if it's the big side up or down, but like I explained, it's the big side up. It shows you another picture of it that still doesn't kind of cover it, so just make sure you got it right. This one is the best picture of it, showing that the big side is up and the small side is down, so that's it. But this is actually showing you another step to make this at a 90-degree angle. So then once you get that together, you got this sled thing started. The next piece is this, then this front piece. So that is this, and then this top piece. So you just take your hammer and you beat that piece in, and you make this. You go up one, then down, then across, I'm sorry. So now you got your whole sled done. You put this front piece on it. So this front piece goes up, and after that, then the next step is to go to this side piece that you see me working on now. So that's that whole page. So then get this out of my way, and the next step is to kind of press it in like I'm kind of doing. There's tabs and it kind of fits like a puzzle. Next step looks like a piece that we haven't gotten to yet. Yeah, this. So we're gonna pick that out, press in another one of those thingies, and see where that goes next. It's kind of a little complicated to work in all the tabs, especially like right here in this area. I noticed that this wasn't seated fully, so pay attention to this before you try to glue anything, because it didn't even tell you to glue it in the directions. I'm assuming that that's something that they're gonna not mention, but I think you gotta glue it. As wood, it's gonna come apart. So pay attention to this part right here. It's that first piece that you started with was the C, and it has a perfect little setup where it's gotta go in at. It's just not sliding in very well. So pay attention. Took me quite a bit of time to get that piece I was telling you about worked in. I ended up taking this hammer and lightly tapping it because it was a matter that it was not going in. So I just lightly tapped it. I mean, super lightly, just until it kind of jarred in place. And I actually saw when it just clicked in. It was just a matter of a tight fit. So that's where I'm at. I think I'm to the point where I'm about to be able to put the second side on. Like this was the last piece in this puzzle by the directions. So then after this, looks like we're joining it. So I don't want to join it and then not glue it. So I'm going to just go ahead and put a bead of glue around the whole thing and strengthen it up. Make sure it doesn't come apart. This is dried up pretty good now. I'm going to go ahead and get these pieces made up. I kind of pre-made them, but I don't know what length they're going to be. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to get this connected. I'm not going to really connect. I'm just sit it on there and kind of see what roundabout what length I need to be centered, because all these servos aren't centered, but I'm going to center the servos. And then once they're centered, I'm going to go ahead and get the clevises correct to the size that I think I need, and then go from there. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to push one of these pins in partially. I don't want to, because I'm going to tighten from both sides of this thing. I'm going to hold this edge even, this edge right here, even with the wing surface, so I get a nice flat positioning, and I can see that it's way past the hole. So I'm gonna tighten it a few turns, then I'm gonna come back. So I got this made up, and I decided to do the flaps first because there's nothing on the aileron side to give you a guidance unless you get the flap done first. So that's a necessary step. I do not like these little pins because I feel like every time I've done an install, I do a lot of builds, and every time I've done one, it's always a reason to get back in here at some point. So like, how do you get that pin out? Like, it's pressed in that, you know, you probably have to use a diagonal cutter or something. I don't know, like, not a cutter, you don't want to cut it, but just to pry it out of there, I don't like that at all. I got everything linked up, and just got the servo cycling in it. They look very well matched up, so I got my straightness that I wanted. So I'm gonna head on to the next side. Alright, we can get back to this piece now. I got all that jazz with the servos all nicely centered, and we can put on these wing tips. To be honest with you, the owner might not even want these on at all because they look like something that's going to break off, but I'm going to go ahead and put them, and we can kind of see what's what from there. Alright, so it looks like with the dihedral of the wing, the flat bottom, okay, there's a mark. You can kind of see a little hole right there. So it looks like that is the cutout where the wing goes. Not very well explained though, now that I'm looking at it. It's just a little place where you can see on both of these that it goes. Maybe to just give you guidance. It only attaches to the moving surfaces. So it comes right here and whoop. Guess that's it. Let me get it measured up and see what's what. So, especially because he might not want these. This is the top surface of the wing. This little top piece goes to that. I put some E6000 on there. I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of get it where it's close enough, and I'm gonna get off frame and get it perfect. So these are the I had the wingtips installed. Now I got these on. Basically, there's a inside the paint job, you know, the little fabric, the little whatever you'd call this paint job, screen print or whatever they did. There's a little lines where they show where they want these at, starting from the back edge going forward. I feel like these are going to be detrimental in the flight characteristics of this bird. If you looked at the videos for it, you'll see that this thing is crazy. So these things help it kind of cut through and make those corners and do what it does. So that's how they go on. The last one right here on the B, it was very hard to see, so I had to kind of like take some measurements from this little body graphic and kind of get it in. But yeah, there it is. This is the last one. I gotta figure out where this. Oh, it goes right behind that little thingy. So get that put in. It goes to the back edge of the wing, and then there's a little cutout where you like let it hang on to the wing. So go ahead and get that on. I just thought I'd let you know that so you wouldn't be confused about which way it goes if you're putting this together first time. And that's what it looks like installed. Next step are all these body parts. They show them all on the picture there. So they just show them. First one being this big one. See what that does. So there's some inserts in this, and then it ultimately tells you to cut it. Like, that's weird. All the loose little pieces they had, they make you cut this. And I hate the way they do this because they don't exactly explain it even in these pictures very well, but it ends up going on the ends of this piece to make the curve for the front of the plane. Well, now you get into some of these pieces. So take this piece. That's weird. The piece on the directions has these little exhaust ports. This one does not. Weird. But it came off of this piece like it was. I don't know why they omitted the little exhaust ports, but they did. So let's just keep it moving. Alright, it has you flip this over and CA it, and it shows that there's a difference in level. So the middle piece gets lower and these side pieces are high, and that's what's going on. So let's get this still glued in. Alright, so I got the piece with the two different levels put together. The next step is to wrap it around something, a tube, a bottle or something, to get it to start curving itself. The next step is to put glue on the frame. Well, put this on the frame, mark where it's not to be glued, glue everywhere else. So that's where I'm at pretty much. I didn't show you beforehand, but pretty much these are simple steps that you just comply to. So it's gluing pretty good. This bottom portion of the aircraft, I'm gonna use E6000 for this foam to foam. I think that's always a better fit, that connection. It fits together real tight anyway. It calls out for some thin CA on the directions. I'm going with this E6000. All right, another glue piece. Glue the bottom on, of course. Then this piece has a hole for this. Put some glue in there. Now we got this piece here. This is gonna be foamed to wood. I still think the E6000 might be the drug of choice for this job. So I think yeah, it's a perfect fit. Yep, E6000 it is. So get that done. Yeah, it tells you to curve this thing because it's gotta ultimately curve to the angle of the vehicle. So I'm gonna need a little bit longer piece of tape than that though. Show you my method. When I'm dealing with stuff like this, I can't tape to it obviously, so I'm gonna take the back of the tape. You can see it sticking to my finger. I'm gonna pull it around and make the curve and stick the tape to itself. Doesn't have to be a prettiest tape job, and you can even do something like that to I think I want more curve than that though, so I'm gonna tighten it up a little bit, and then I'm gonna tape it on there. Nice holding. Can take this one probably and reinforce this back area just to get it to train it. Sorry, I was off frame. Train it to start curving. So yeah, now the sticky part of the tape is out, so It's not sticking to my canopy. It's only sticking to itself, and this piece wants to slide off, so probably just leave it alone. Just let it sit for a few minutes like this just to get it some curvature when I get to this step, because I see they're calling for it soon. The next step is to put this rounded piece in the front. Then it wants you to trim that piece with the CA, with the knife. And I don't know why you're trimming it, though they don't cover that, you know. So I'm gonna just hold it even with the edge and glue it on like I say. So that's pretty much that procedure. I guess I'll understand it later, but I'll go ahead and cut this little angle on the front of here like they're asking. And it's so hard to do this by yourself, but anyway. So I'm gonna just hit this at this angle to give it a rounded edge. Let's finish that. Next thing we get into is this edge right here for this thingy. Let's take the tape off. It's got a little curve to it, so this will ultimately, gotta cut this tab off though. I never cut those off. Alright, got that windscreen or the windshield glued on. Doesn't exactly match up to the bird, so I'm gonna have to, they say use thin CA to make this work. So yeah, you'll just kind of flow it in there and then I guess kick it. So let me get that done. So yeah, that's what I got. A little bit of white residue from the whole CA bonding, but pretty good. Next step goes into telling you to weight the rudder. I already did that. It's almost even like staying this way now. So that's done. Back to the tail. Seems like they're going to tell you to glue the tail in, the rudder servo in now. I don't know why that couldn't have been done at the same time as the other servo. Alright, so you're going to insert it from the top with the gear facing forward, and it goes in like a little something like this. Alright, I'm gonna get some glue on this. Be right back. Alright, it's glued. Now both of the wires for both servos are coming from the bottom. The next step is to feed that through the with some extensions, of course. They show extensions. Kit didn't come with extensions. It's kind of crazy at the price that these kits are. Little things like that didn't get included, but anyway. I'm gonna get me some extensions or see how many inches I need and go from there. Alright, I used my tester, powered up my ESC. Yeah, and now I had to reverse the wires, of course, but now I'm taping these. I just put a piece of Scotch tape on this just so that while you're doing your installs and whatnot, you don't accidentally pull it apart. And you know, I guess for further vibration needs in the future, it'll help you have just a little bit of protection on these wires from being pulled apart, because it's always an aggravation when you're trying to fly and something like that happens. You got to take everything apart. All right, so it's turned the right way. Now I can get it mounted. Well, long build, so I'm kind of getting complacent on updating, but I put the thrust vectoring washers underneath there, and I just cinched that down with some CA. Here you go. One at the top, one at the bottom. It was marked. Looked like they had a part that was supposed to be installed there with the kit, but I didn't get that part with mine, so I'm gonna just put these two metal washers there, call it a day. Screwing it in now. The next step is to start to deal with the wheels. Oh, okay, you got a bolt that goes, that's the bolt for the wheel. Alright, so we just need to put another nut on now. Test it, roll it. The landing gear goes on with these. I got those in my hand. That should be able to be done now without worries of the wheel part. I'm going to get the wheels glued. I'm going to find the last few bits and pieces of this kit. And I don't see the screws for this. Was kind of an inconsistency with my kit with the packaging, because everything was kind of falling out of the box. So I might have to find me some screws to put this in with. It doesn't 1 by 1.90, 2.90, okay. Not exactly sure what that means, but it shows 4 wood screws right there with a washer. Reach for my trusty wood screw kit, get me a couple of ones out of here and get it done. At this point, I got the I centered the servo for the rudder. Go back to this step now because everything else is dry. Go ahead and fit this on here, and I can attach the linkage to the rudder. Alright, so the wheels have been squishing down for a couple of days while I kind of fumbled through some of the install, but today I really hit it hard. So they're wanting you to glue all the areas of this wheel well and then go ahead and put it back together. Get that done. Alright, get the wheel squished back down. They call for medium CA, and well, it's very little, but there is some CA in the mags of the wheel. I'll just go ahead and get that excess wiped off, and then that'll be it.